Hi, everyone. I'm Debbie Schwartz. I'm just letting everybody in. And if somebody can just type in the chat that you can see and hear me, that would be great. Oh, good. I was like wondering for a second, there's a little delay. Okay, great. Let me just let a few more people in. And while people are coming in, I'd love to hear where you guys are from. Thank you for taking the time in the middle of the day. I kind of break these up. Sometimes I do a lot of night stuff, but now I'm just doing a few things during the day here and there. Great. From all over Missouri, Syracuse, Maryland, Chicago, Rhode Island. Great. Okay, let me let in a few more people. So today we're going to talk about appealing financial aid. I'm going to walk through just some slides I have to make it easier for people to see what's going on. This kind of actually isn't a hard process. I know it feels kind of strange to be going back and asking for more money, but we'll talk about, there's two different like major reasons why you would ask for more money, and then how do you best support why you're asking for more money. And I'm going to show you a tool that we have. It's a free tool called Compare College Offers, where you can also see what other students at the same schools have been offered. Okay, sorry, just letting more people in. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to share my screen. And I like to do these things as meetings. I thank everybody who is on video. It's just nice to see a face instead of like talking into the empty space. And if you want to unmute yourself and ask a question, that is great. But if you don't have anything and you're just listening, keep yourself muted because we do hear a lot of the background noise. But I think everybody is pretty good on Zoom etiquette these days. Okay, let me share. Okay, let me just get my chat back up. And again, just do me a favor and just confirm that you guys are seeing my screen. Yes. Okay, good. So before I start, I do want to say that this whole presentation and some other things that I've been doing this winter has been sponsored by College Ave Student Loans. I've actually been working with College Ave Student Loans for a few years, and they really are a really wonderful partner, and they provide private student loans, but they're also very interested in making sure that people are educated about the process. And that's why they are interested in sponsoring educational content like what we're going through today, because the more families are educated and the more you're kind of properly addressing each stage of the process, actually our hope is that you're minimizing the amount of loans that you're going to have to take out. But if you do get to the point where you need to take out private loans, I definitely recommend that you check out College Ave. They have really tried to take the stress out of paying for college when you get to that stage of the process. And they do have a very flexible student loan where you can alter how long you want to take to pay off the loan, how much obviously you want to pay each month. And they have great calculators that help you kind of see when you make all of those adjustments, what that does to a monthly payment. So just wanted to thank College Ave Student Loans. And they also actually are doing a sweepstakes, which I'll send as a follow-up email for if you sign up. They're going to pick some students or some people who register to cover all of their books for the year. So that's a nice bonus as well. Okay, so today we're talking about financial aid appeal. We're going to talk about what is the process, how do you know if should you appeal, when should you appeal, and once you send in that appeal, what to expect. So basically when you're appealing, you're asking the college to, re-review your financial situation or your student's academic situation. And that's going to be the difference between whether you're asking for and sending your appeal to the financial aid office or to the admissions office. So it's really kind of those two branches. Are you appealing because something has changed in your financial situation, or are you appealing because you feel that the offer that was made to your student doesn't really represent, their value as an academic or contribution to the school's student base. So, and we're going to talk about how you decide between the two and what information you're going to send back to the school. Okay, so some of the things you're going to be looking at to determine, whether or not you should be doing need-based appeal or merit appeal is one, first, have you checked if you got any sort of need-based aid? Have you checked? Did you get the appropriate amount of need-based aid that the school claimed that they said that they were going to offer? And I had this happen with a family who messaged me, not that long ago, and they didn't get what they expected from a need-based perspective. And the first thing we did is we looked up what the percent need met is that the school said that they were going to offer. And I guess I'm curious to see in the chat if people know what percent need met means. So are you talking about the FAFSA ESC?
Yeah.
Okay, no. So, okay, I can see. So people, let me give you a little bit more explanation. So percent need met is what the college says that they will meet of what your financial need is. So the financial need is what the school's total cost of attendance is. And then they subtract what your EFC is from the FAFSA. So let me just give simple numbers. Let's say cost of attendance is 60,000. Your EFC is 30,000. So your difference, your need is 30,000. And so then the school says we will meet a certain percentage of it. The very generous schools, the very, well-endowed schools will meet 100% of need. But other schools kind of, maybe less willing to give money, but are still willing to give money, might meet your percent of need from anywhere from 30% to, 60, 70, 80%. So if you are in that situation where your EFC is less than the cost of attendance, I would check what the percentage need met is of the school and then see if they actually did meet that. So that's kind of one area to check out. The second is if your student has gotten any sort of merit money, I would double check to make sure that the money that they were offered, if it meets any sort of requirements that is listed on the school's website. So let me give you an example. I lost something just to see where people are coming in. Oh, here it is. Sorry. Okay. And I just need to mute somebody. So okay. Okay, there's somebody who is not being muted, even though I'm saying mute all. So if anybody, I think this is it. I found it. Okay, sorry about that. So requirements for merit. This is what happened with this family. The mother messaged me and said that they didn't get the merit that they thought they were going to get. And they looked on the school's website and they thought that the student's GPA fit into the category where they should have gotten a certain amount of merit money, and they didn't get that. And so she wondered why. So they called the school, they contacted the school, and it turned out that the way the school was calculating GPA was different than the way that family and that family's high school was calculating GPA. So that's, and that student was just on the cusp of, of the top scholarship versus the scholarship right below that. And they appealed that, and they did get it because they were so close, and so there was just kind of like a question of how the schools were doing the calculation. So I would, these are kind of just like double checks that you're going to do before you actually make the appeal. So if a school, and that's a big if a school actually shares on their website what the criteria is that they use to provide merit scholarships, double check. Sometimes there are mistakes. Sometimes your student might just be on the cusp, and you can, explain that. You just want to make sure that you haven't missed anything on their website. Okay, and then the last thing is we're going to compare, and I'm going to change my screen for a second. I'm going to show you how you can enter in your students' offers into this tool and to see what other students at the same schools received. Okay, so let me stop this share for a second and go. Okay, can you guys see this? Yep, every time I do that, I lost my chat. Okay. So if you guys tell me that you can see, this is the Road to College main website. Okay, great. So on the far right, it says compare college offers. So I want you to click there. This is what you're going to see when you first, if you've never been here before. This is, we crowdsource college offers. We've been doing it actually for 3 years. And each year we've been getting, more and more. So that benefits everybody. I got people constantly coming in, and so I'm admitting them. So what you're going to do here is enter your email, pick, most people are a parent, pick that you're a parent, check that, your terms and conditions, and then we will send you automatic password to come in. So when you do this, check your emails immediately and you'll get a password. I have one, so I'm just going to log in. Okay, so I already have offers in here. This is a test account, but I'm just going to show you how you can enter it quickly and then what information you'll see. So if I were to go to add offers, this will come up blank for you, but you're going to enter in what state you're from, your student's unweighted GPA. You're going to pick an EFC range that you're in, and then if there's a big if your student took any exams like SAT and ACT, enter in their scores, and then you're also going to be able to say whether they sent those scores in. So somebody's asking how many schools can you compare for free? You can compare however many schools your student applied to. So the only caveat here is that you're only going to be able to see information for the schools that your student applied to. Okay, so I'm going to add a school. I am just going to pick a school. Let's just for the purpose here, let's say Northeastern. Then tell us what, admissions cycle they were in. If your student got offers, it could have been from early decision now, it could have been for early decision 2, it could be enrolling admission. I'm sorry, regular admission, it could be rolling. So, pick one of these. I'm just going to say regular admission for now. And then you're going to fill in what the money is that they were offered. Were they offered need-based aid? So that's this first category, total grants and scholarship based on need, or were they offered money that was based on merit? So we phrased it slightly different here and said, were they offered total grants and scholarships that was not based on financial need? So I'm going to say in this case, yes, that, the student was offered $15,000 and it was money that's renewable. They're going to get this money every year if they meet a certain requirement. And then, most likely everybody's offered some version of loans. It's just whether or not they're subsidized or unsubsidized. I'm going to say that these were unsubsidized loans that they were offered. And we didn't get any Pell Grants, we don't have any private scholarships, and we didn't have any work study. Okay, so then I'm going to save it. And then, oops, sorry. Oops, already. Oh, sorry. Oh my gosh, I already have one offered for there. Oh, that's cool. I didn't even think about that. Sorry. Okay, let's just. Oops. Sorry about that, guys. Mute that person. Okay, let's just pick another school. Let's just go to the top for the sake of quickness. Let's say Adelphi. Oh, and one more thing. You can write underneath the school, you can say, did your student apply without sending in their test scores? So meaning you told us that they had scores, but they didn't actually use it to apply. Or some people, actually don't get offered any money. And so you could just click this button here. And so you don't have to fill in the rest of the information. Okay, so now I save that. And then it says compare my offers. And then you can see, gives you a summary of all of your offers, your students' offers. So you can kind of quickly see, we just do some simple math to show you what's the cost of attendance, how much were you offered, and so what's the net cost going to be to you if you want to compare that. And then you can go and compare what other students got at those schools. So for Adelphi, now that's the first one that comes up. I can see that it's the academic year, 21, 22, because that's what these students were accepted to. These are all the other students that offered that shared their information. So, and we group them by EFC range. So you might want to look at the EFC range. I think, what's here, you can compare what state students were accepted from, what their GPA SAT was. Actually, this is my offer here. It's starred. I'm going to go back and delete it because it's not real information. But everything so far for Adelphi, people sent in was just for early action, and then you can see the merit scholarships offered. So, this actually for Adelphi is offering a lot of good merit scholarship. And so what I would then do if my student had been accepted, I would say, did my student get any of these similar ranges? And if not, did they have a similar, GPA, SAT? I'd start to kind of like compare and figure out if there's a reason why my student didn't get it. But then I would kind of use this as encouragement to say, hey, I think that my student could possibly get more. I am going to appeal to the school. Okay, so in the Road to College tool, does this show only for only for students that filled in their information? Yes, this is crowdsourced information, so we only have it for people who have shared. But I'm trying to think off the top of my head let me show you one other thing. You can go back to previous years. So I can look for last year, we had 2 people filled it out, so not as many. And for other schools, we have more data from previous years. But that's why we are encouraging as many people as possible to fill this out, because it helps each other, right? It helps other families this year, and quite honestly, it will help other families next year. And I'm trying to think, we probably have right now close to about 5,500 actual offers that have been crowdsourced. So, I wouldn't take this as gospel, but it's pretty good, like directional information to give you a good sense of comfort that, yes, I should probably proceed and appeal. Okay, the one thing I would not do necessarily is I wouldn't use this information in an appeal letter. So I wouldn't say, oh, I know somebody else who got this money and that's why I'm asking. So we're not using this tool for that purpose, but you're just kind of seeing, are other people actually getting more money than what was offered my student? Okay, so I'm going to switch back now. And let me go back.
While you're switching, I just want clarification.
Sure.
Your data is based on primarily you are incorporating last year or not?
So there is a tab, and you can see each year by itself. So
okay,
here.
I think that's important because of COVID and the finances of most colleges.
I'm sorry, say that again, Karen.
Due to COVID and the financial status of many colleges, that is something to keep in mind, that it's going to be different from last year to this year due to budget cuts.
Correct. So I wouldn't use last year and say, oh, I need to get the same amount of money, but you might want to see that students with similar criteria of yours this year got money last year. And to tell you the truth, we're kind of seeing things a little bit all over the place. State schools, and I was going to talk about this later, but we'll talk about it now. State schools, yes, a lot of state schools, particularly if you're out of state student, we're not seeing the state schools give the same amount of merit money. Private schools, we're seeing it kind of a little bit all over the place. Some private schools are giving the same amount as they gave last year. Some are even giving a little bit more. They gave a little bit more to students who applied early action because they wanted those students to commit. And some schools are not giving as much, at least right now. I would say, they are like lowballing their offers, but I feel like we can't really make a judgment until the whole season's over, because I have a feeling some of those schools may end up increasing their offers depending on how their yield comes through closer to May 1st. So it's definitely something to keep in mind. We're not honestly going to be able to say how this all shakes out, unfortunately, until everything is over. Okay, let me go back. And sorry, I just have to pull up the chat again. Okay. Okay. So as I was saying, should you appeal? We are seeing that some schools are kind of trying to preserve, their budgets, their merit money budget. And so they may be offering something slightly less right now. knowing that a lot of people are going to come back and appeal, and then kind of using their money more strategically when students are appealing, which is, basically students started appealing in February. So that process is going to continue from now until May 1st. Should you appeal if you see, as I just showed you in the tool, that there are other students getting better offers than what your student is getting? Yes, you should give it a try. I'll give you an example. I spoke to actually a college counselor just the other day, and we happened to talking about Manhattan College, and Manhattan College was offering students, at least according to in the tool, honestly, very generous. They were at the top of their range, very generous merit scholarship offers of $36,000. And this particular counselor student was very, very close to the top range, in terms of academics, and they had been offered $30,000. So it just made her realize that, there might be a little bit more that she could get for that student. So it's worth going back and asking. Okay, so I've talked a lot about merit. Let's talk a lot about the need-based side of it. If the two main reasons why you would appeal from a need-based standpoint is if you feel that there was some potential errors in your FAFSA and your CSS profile. Maybe you realize something after the fact that was entered incorrectly, and you need to bring that to the attention of the financial aid office, and that would impact what aid that they are willing to give you. And then the second of that is what we call special circumstances. And let me go in a little bit more detail about that. So special circumstances are, they wide open in that it's anything that might have affected your household's income significantly. And because of, the pandemic, that's not going to be unusual this year. In fact, they're probably going to have a much higher than normal requests for these types of appeals. So we all know that FAFSA is based on your tax returns from 2 years ago. Well, unfortunately, there's been too many people whose financial situation has changed dramatically from 2 years ago, where the FAFSA is using that information to what's going on today. So if that is your case, you could have been obviously a restaurant owner, and your income has been significantly impacted, or any other type of small business owner, any other type of worker who might have been laid off, or or had reduced hours. So if you can demonstrate and communicate that your income has significantly changed, then that is cause to appeal to the financial aid office under what is called professional judgment. And I would actually encourage people to use those words, professional judgment. And what professional judgment means is that the financial aid office actually, the federal government has given the financial aid office the latitude to say, I can go into somebody's FAFSA, or I can change the situation related to what their EFC comes out to. So they can manually decide how to make these changes. And so again, just giving an example, if your EFC was originally 30,000, but because of these changes, the financial aid office has decided to go in and adjust things, they can manually change it so your EFC comes out to 40,000, and therefore, I'm sorry, the opposite. It comes down to 20,000, and therefore they can give you more aid. So this is actually a very powerful tool that the financial aid office has. I would suggest that if you had, as we're talking about, a change in income, substantial change, to let them know. If there's been a change in your marital household status, let them know. If you have excessive medical bills that do not show up, in the FAFSA and the CSS profile, let them know. This is the chance to communicate to the financial aid office all those financial situations that aren't properly reflected on the FAFSA or the CSS profile. Don't feel bad. This is the way to let them know what is happening with your situation. The only thing I will kind of make you aware of, that if you're going to do this, make sure you have documentation to show it. They're just not going to take your word for it. They're going to want to, see, a change in, payment stubs, or they're going to want to see a summary of the actual medical bills. So pull together your documentation and send it along with your letter of explanation. And in most cases, if the school can accommodate, and if, they can, and if they have the financial means, they will make these adjustments, because they know that people's financial situations are changing, and particularly this year, more than ever, you just have to tell them and you just have to show them that that's happening. Okay, and again, use the word professional judgment. It triggers to them that, A, you've kind of done your research, and B, that's the process that you want them to be using, which gives them, more freedom to make these changes. Okay, so now I'm flipping to the other side. What if you don't have financial need? And you know what? Sorry, I want to go back to one thing about professional judgment. So somebody, and there's been a lot of questions and I haven't looked in them, but I saw one that said, well, I don't have financial need. Right. As of like when you filled out the FAFSA, you might not have had financial need, but because something happened, you might not realize, but now you could be considered to have financial need. And so let me give you like just some examples of a family where maybe one of the parents has been diagnosed with cancer, since the tax returns that we use for FAFSA, and their medical bills are much higher than they, ever expected. Even if their income hasn't changed, something in their financial situation has changed, and that is cause enough to share with the financial aid office that, hey, we have these bills we never expected we were going to have. My income might have stayed the same, but what I have left to pay for college is much different now than what I expected when I filled out the FAFSA. So I just want people to realize, depending on what your situation is, even if maybe your income has stayed the same, but you've had other bills that has really significantly impacted your financial situation, that is cause enough to kind of share with the financial aid office that things have changed for your family. Okay. Let me skip over to merit scholarship. So I'm sure a lot of you who are here, your student has gotten some form of a merit scholarship. I wish we had a poll, but I'm guessing that that's the case. So I would do what I suggested earlier, is to go to compare college offers, share that information, see what else other students have gotten, but also start narrowing down where your student is most interested. So there's got to be, top 2, top 3 schools, and compare what those schools offered. Don't just compare the dollar amount. What you want to look at is the percentage of what the merit scholarship represents of the tuition, room, and board. So for example, a school might cost $50,000, right? And they offered you, $10,000. So, that percentage you want to compare versus a school that might be $80,000 and offered you $15,000. So it looks like, well, the $15,000 to the $10,000, that school, offered more. But when you do it on a percentage basis, the school that offered less is actually giving you more percentage of what the total cost of that school is. So that's how you want to compare the offers, not just by the dollar amount of the offer. You want to compare it based on what that dollar amount is of a percentage of the total tuition, room, and board. Then look at, which of those top 3 schools gave the best offer, and then use that information to, if that is not your school, if that is not your student's top school, then use that information to go and write a letter, which we'll talk about in a minute, to the school saying, my student is interested in, very interested in coming to your school, but we have an offer from another school that is just financially better and it's easier for our family to commit to, but we really want my son or daughter to come to this school, and we're asking you if you can match that offer. What you also want to look at is, since the time that your student sent in their application, has there been any sort of improvement or change in their, for the better, in what they can share with the college? Have their grades come out, since when they sent in their application, and their grades are better than what they were before? Have they, and this is no pressure, but did they take an SAT or an ACT? And, in the fall, there was some test dates that students were still taking them and not getting the results back in time before they had to submit their applications. So was there, a test score that is now better, or maybe you didn't even send in a test score before, but now your student has a test score and it's above average for that school, so you want to send that in. Did they receive any sort of awards, either from their high school or from outside their high school? So anything that you can find that is new and kind of, lifts up your student, I would share that information. And then the last is something that you're going to have to think about yourself. You want to try and figure out how desirable your student is to that school, right? I mean, at the end of the day, schools are giving out merit money for a few different reasons, but primarily they are trying to attract the students that are probably at the higher end of the range that they normally attract, right? So the more desirable your student is, the more likely that they're going to be willing to give you an appeal and maybe even give you more than, another student. So how would you determine that? Go back again, which you probably all did this during the search, the college search process, but go back again and look at where your students' GPA is relative to the range of the GPA that school accepts for students. Look at their test scores. Look at geography, and that's kind of where maybe Compare College offers can help. Is this a school on the East Coast and you guys from Iowa? The schools want to have diversity in a lot of different ways, and so if your student fits some type of diversity for that school, that probably makes them a little bit more desirable. So this just again gives you a sense that yes, I should appeal, and actually my student should maybe get a little bit more because they are a student that school is most likely trying to attract and is desirable in the applicant pool that applied to the school. Okay, so more like specific. What's the exact process that you're going to do now? I'm just reviewing. You're going to, check the school's website because some schools have a specific process that they want you to follow from an appeal standpoint. They might have a form that they want you to send out. They might give you the email address of the person you're supposed to contact. So check to see if they have that type of information. They might also detail out, particularly if you're appealing from a financial standpoint, they might detail out and say, we need to see this type of documentation if you're going to appeal your need-based aid. You're going to, I would check in detail the packages, the financial aid packages that you've received. Let me give you an example that was happening. Actually, it related to Manhattan College. So that's why I had been talking to several people about it. A parent actually noticed that their student had received the initial acceptance letter, and it said, congratulations, your student is being offered a trustee scholarship. Great, they were all excited. And it was, a merit-based trustee scholarship. And then they actually got the financial aid paperwork, and that scholarship was listed under a column that said need-based aid. So they were very confused because they thought that the scholarship was for merit, and yet it was being listed under need-based aid. And I mean, hopefully you guys all realize the problem with that is that a merit scholarship is a scholarship that a student's going to receive every year for 4 years. If they meet the requirement, which hopefully they will, which is sometimes usually a GPA requirement. A need-based grant is something that is going to be reevaluated every year, and there is no guarantee that you will get that money year to year. So that was a big difference to be told that they would get, a $36,000 merit scholarship, but then it showed up under the need column. So that was something that the parent wasn't necessarily looking for. They just kind of stumbled upon it. And so that's why it's important to really look at everything that the college sends you. In this case, the parent wrote back and said, I thought my student was offered a merit scholarship, but it's being shown as a need-based grant. And the college explained that they had some mistakes. Anyhow, it was shifted over and is truly a merit scholarship. But you just don't want to be in that situation where you're all of a sudden surprised. You thought it was particularly a merit scholarship, and then the next year it doesn't come through because it was really need-based aid, and there was just a miscommunication between you and the school. So look through all the paperwork, look at the fine details. It's important. Okay, then you're gonna draft a letter. We'll talk about that. And in that letter, you're either going to be asking for, more merit money, or you're going to be asking for more need-based money. There'll be some sort of a follow-up from the school. They'll either tell you, yes, we can, increase it by a certain amount, or, there have been some schools that are saying we are not matching offers. They either tend to be schools that are more highly ranked, more selective, they're getting a lot of applications, or they just feel confident that whatever offers that they've given out, students are going to accept. So that's we can't force a school to give more money. That's going to be their decision in this process. And then, you have to, obviously wait for a decision. But I will say that we've seen it, and it is okay to go back. You can definitely go back a second time and say, are you sure? Is there really, no more money you can offer? A third time might be pushing it, but I think it's definitely okay to go back for a second time. Okay, big question. Who writes this? Who does it get sent to? All that type of stuff. There's lots of different opinions about this. This is not a hard science. This isn't like, this is the way it always happens and you can't do it any other way. But I do think that it works well if the email, we're saying letter, but it's really the email comes from the student. It doesn't mean that the student has to write it all themselves, but it does look more genuine if it's coming from the student. Not that you guys, you're kind of at the end of the process, but it's still a really good book to get. Here, I'm just going to show you. This came out probably now a month ago, called The Price You Pay for College by Lieber. He has a whole chapter here on appealing financial aid. And it's not just the mechanics of how to appeal financial aid. He talked to people in the financial aid office. And what struck me in reading that chapter was that he described a lot about who the financial aid officers tend to be. They're not people who are making a ton of money at the colleges. So you want to kind of put yourself in their shoes, when you're reaching out to them. And they also genuinely like to feel like they are helping a student, as opposed to an aggressive parent who's trying to get more money from the school. So I would personally have the communications come from your student, particularly if it's written. Obviously, you're going to help them write it, but I think it looks nice if it comes from their email address. You could also, your student could try and call. And if they're calling, I would be right there with them, obviously. So, have them initiate the conversation, but if they're calling and your student doesn't feel comfortable completely having the conversation, I think it's perfectly fine that they say, you know what, my parent is here along with me. We're here to both talk about the situation. That's fine. But definitely have your student involved. Again, I think it just is kind of an appearance, and it makes the person on the other end more receptive to what's going on. So yes, so somebody said, Lieber said, merit aid appeals should go to the admissions, not the financial aid office. Correct. You know what? I apologize here. I should have said that. You're right. Number 2, I need to edit. So number 2 should say, if you're doing a merit aid appeal, it should go to the admissions office. If you're doing a financial aid appeal, it should go to the financial aid office. So thank you. Sorry for that confusion here. And, again, for the financial need, make sure you have all of your supporting documents, even for the merit scholarship, appeal. If you've got anything else you want to add to, what's improved in your student situation, have that documentation, whether it's a transcript, whether it's a copy of, even a screenshot of what their test scores, or if it's some sort of an award they won, share that. Can you appeal to both offices? It can't hurt. It can't hurt. If I don't think I would appeal to the financial aid office if you truly, have no change in your financial situation and you didn't receive any need-based aid to begin with. I'm not quite sure it's worth sending it to the financial aid office, but if you have a situation where you both need to question your need-based aid because something has changed in your financial situation, and your student also got a merit scholarship and you believe that they should receive more, sure, then write it to both, obviously the same letter, and I would incorporate it all, and then I would CC both offices. Okay, so what do you say in this letter? It's really, not a complicated letter. It shouldn't take that long. You're not, trying to have lots of verbiage. It's just kind of straight to the point. You should just say, and I apologize. I actually realized I have a link on our website with a sample letter. I don't have it right here. Actually, if you Google Road to College and Financial Aid Appeal sample letter, it should come up, but I'll send that link in the follow-up. So you should just start off, say, be grateful, thank you, very much, and kind of coming from the voice of the student. I'm very grateful that I've been offered this merit scholarship. I'm very excited to attend. This is, one top school, but even with the merit scholarship that I was offered, there is still a gap, and it's difficult for my family to, pay for this school. At that point, you can then share, in addition, I have received merit scholarships from other schools, and I would pick the best offer and say, I would even say, this particular school, whatever it is, the name of it, school XYZ, offered me this merit scholarship, which, is, X percent of what the total cost is to attend that school. And, that school, because of that offer, it makes that school a little bit more financially viable for my family, to help me attend. And then, you include, by the way, my grades have improved, or I got this award, blah, blah, blah. And that's it. And then you say, I hope that, you will be able to match this dollar amount that would help make it financially feasible, or more financially feasible for my family to send me to this school, which is my top choice. I mean, that's really the essence of the letter. It's nothing fancy or, more elaborately written. You just kind of giving them the facts that this is a top school that your student is interested in. I mean, your students saying this, that they are interested in, they can't really cover all of the costs that there are, and that they were offered a better, merit scholarship someplace else. And, they'd like the school to reconsider and at a minimum, match what they've been offered someplace else. I haven't even seen the questions, but my guess is one of the questions is, what if my student wasn't offered a merit scholarship someplace else? You can still write this letter. You obviously don't have, something else to say, I've been offered, another merit scholarship, but you can then just say, this is my top choice. I really am grateful for what you've offered, but it still isn't enough to have my family send me to this school. And then just be honest, you don't have another offer to compare it against, but you're just being honest and saying, I need more money. And, you'll see what happens. They still give students more money, even if you don't have a competing offer. So when should you do this? There's like a few different, thoughts from your opinions about when you should do this. I think in this particular year, the way things are going, if you have at least, 2 offers from schools that your student is interested in, even knowing that they might have more offers that haven't come in yet, I would start appealing to the top 2 schools that you have offers from now. Because if one of those schools gives you more money, and then your student gets accepted to another school that maybe becomes their top school, you have a better offer now to then show to the other school that that your students just received an offer from. So I know a lot of people say, well, if you're going to appeal, then your students should be ready to accept the offer at that school if they come back and give you more. Sure, that's nice. I mean, they should kind of feel good that they might go to that school, but I would not feel the pressure from the school to say that you have to accept just because they have offered you more money. In fact, there was a story, a real story that somebody is sharing in the Paying for College 101 group. And I can't even remember if they mentioned the name of the college, but they basically said, we went back, we asked for more money, the college gave us more money, and then they said, but we had 10 days to accept. And you might feel that that's pressure, and that is pressure, but to tell you the truth, that's not really ethical according to the ethical standards that colleges have to abide by. So the true decision date is May 1st. Colleges really can't and shouldn't be pressuring you to commit before May 1st. So if a school does that, and says, we're going to offer you more money, but you only have X number of days to make a decision, I would politely go back and say, thank you so much. I'm so excited that you were able to give us more money, but my family, needs more time to make this decision, and we're going to have to wait until May 1st. And I think, that just honestly shows that you are an educated consumer, and you're not going to be pushed around by or pressured to make a decision when you don't have to make that decision. So I would start appealing and see if you get better offers. And then again, if there are more acceptances that are coming into your students, then you can decide if you want to use these better offers to kind of continue to appeal to other schools that are truly their, top places that they want to go to. So what do you think might happen, right? Yes, there's going to be times where the school comes back and says, sorry, we just, or cannot give you more. That's probably going to be places where you're an out-of-state student at a state school. They, state schools in general, even to the in-state students, are sometimes not always that generous. They're running off of state budgets, and particularly this year, they just don't have the money. So, I would not expect that you're going to get more money if you're an out-of-state student at a state school. What we typically see on a merit aid appeal is, up to $5,000 per year in an increase in a merit award. It still may not close the financial gap that you had, but think about it, from writing a letter and asking for more money. If you got $5,000, that's an extra $20,000 over 4 years. So it's not something to, push aside. It's helpful. I'd be curious to see this year if colleges give more than the 5,000. My hypothesis is if they give more than the 5,000, it's going to be for students that they really want, that they really think that giving that more money will get them to commit. And they might also start to give more money the closer the school gets to May 1st, the decision day. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with the term yield, but yield basically is, for college, it's how many students who they have accepted decide to come to them. And besides it just kind of showing to the industry or other colleges, how attractive that school is, that once they offer an acceptance to a student, they decide to come. Obviously, a lot of the more elite schools have very high yields. They have yields like in the 80%. So they know that 80% of the students that they, offer an acceptance to are going to decide to come. And it drops down pretty quickly. Even kind of like good schools, don't have that high yield rate. And so yield obviously helps the school figure out how many students are coming and what their revenue is going to be. It's also an indicator that is used in rankings. So that's another reason why they are very interested in kind of what they call protecting their yield. You'll see that for schools, like this term protecting your yield might happen for, I'll give you an example. Tulane is known to defer or reject students that look like, oh my gosh, they should get in because they have these great stats, but Tulane has decided that student is actually more likely to accept a offer someplace else. And even though they are a great student, even though they are above the stats that would normally come to Tulane, they end up rejecting those students because they want to have a really good yield. They want to be able to give out acceptances to students that they know will really come. Okay, so I see people are asking many, many good questions. I definitely agree. So let me start. This is actually kind of all I had to say. I guess the last comment is, could you possibly get significantly more? You possibly could, and those situations are probably going to be more in the financial need-based area. So something has significantly changed in your financial need. You can prove that to the college. And in those cases, they actually may change what they give you, in the change of $10,000 to $20,000, but because that's out of a different, bucket, and it's really based on financial need that you're now proving to the college that you have. Bottom line is, in all of this, you have nothing to lose. Worst case is they come back and say no. But the best case is you come back and you get something, and it's better than where you were before. So I would definitely give it a try. Just provide like good enough information to make it seem, that you've done a little bit of your research, and you're just not saying, I need more money. You're giving the reasons why, or you're showing that your kid was offered something better, or you're just being honest and saying, as a student, I really want to come here, but I don't have the financial needs, and the merit money that you gave me was just not enough. Okay, let's see what type of questions. Does putting a deposit down decrease your chance of reconsideration? Yes, I do believe that. I mean, basically, by putting a deposit down, you are saying, I'm ready to come, right? So sure, there's the chance that you might not follow through on your deposit, but personally, I don't think particularly in this type of year, there's a reason to feel pressure to put the deposit down. I do believe, and I'd be curious to see if this works out, that the people who have the patience and wait to make their decision as close as possible to May 1st will potentially get the most amount of appeal money. Again, the schools are going to get nervous, particularly the closer they get to May 1st. And if they don't have the enrollment numbers that they're looking at, they're going to be willing to increase their merit offers to pull in more. Okay. Oh, so many questions are coming too fast. Yeah, this is being recorded. Yes, I'll send the link. Okay, I'm going to scroll back, guys. So this is recorded, and I should say this. I see somebody asking, and I maybe I didn't, and I don't normally make this clear at the beginning, but I should going forward. This is free. This is recorded, and so this recording does get sent to the, we put it on YouTube because somebody was asking that they wanted to unmute and ask a question, but they don't want to for privacy reasons. And that's okay. If you have a privacy concern, you can definitely, email me your question. You don't have to unmute yourself or even turn on your video. So should the student be doing this or the parent? I think I addressed that. I personally think that really it should come from the student. Parent is going to be involved in the process. The parent is going to help write the letter. And if they end up calling, the parent can be there and be part of the call, but definitely a lot of this should come to the student with the guidance of the parents. So this is scrolling back from earlier questions. Somebody asked, when I talked about percentage need met, is that the same as demonstrated need? What I described as the difference between the cost of attendance and your EFC, when they subtract that, what is left is your demonstrated need. So you're correct. Where do you find the percentage of need met? There's two quick, actually, I would just go Google the school's common data set. So take the name of the school, just say, Drexel University common data set, pick the most recent common data set, and it is in Section H. There it will say what percentage of need met that school will provide. The GPA question is weighted versus unweighted, and often the way public versus private schools do GPAs. I'm finding that, schools are recalculating GPAs. They're trying to bring it down to a normalized scale for their process. So that's definitely kind of an issue. You guys are at the end of the process, but it's an issue for the families next year with fewer test scores and schools relying on GPA. It's just actually harder to know what GPA ranges they are looking at because everybody's doing a slightly different calculation. Okay, who do you talk to about merit requirements and what the merit requirements are? A, start looking at the website. B, another way to slightly approach this is your student can, if they got a merit offer from another school and they really want to go to a different school, they can write the admissions office and say, hey, I got this offer, merit scholarship from college B, really want to go to college A, and I'm not aware of what the requirements are for your merit scholarships. I did get a merit scholarship at this school. Maybe you can tell me more about what your requirements are for getting a merit scholarship. I'd like to know, what they are and if, there's a possibility of me fitting into it. So that's definitely, I would definitely ask, if they can elaborate more on what their requirements are for merit scholarships. Okay, let's see. How do you handle if outside scholarships are received, but the school wants to use those scholarships towards the need amount instead of the amount the family will pay? This is a big issue. This is the issue of scholarships, of schools not willing to stack outside scholarships. So what happens is a student gets a private scholarship, has nothing to do with the school. They report it to the school and the school says, hey, that's great. We were giving you $10,000 in need-based aid. Now we can reduce that amount. There's not a hard and fast rule. A college can decide them, on their own what they want to do. I would just plead with the school. They usually do not impact merit scholarships. Schools are usually reducing the amount of need-based aid that they give out if your student has received a private scholarship. All you can do is kind of present your situation to the financial aid office and say, my student applied for a private scholarship because we need the extra money. And with you reducing our need-based aids, we're in the same situation. I would just, try and present that scenario to school and, hope that they are understanding and change it. It's going to be a school by school. How many? Oh, okay. Should appeal letters be from the student or parent? We talked about this. Okay. So somebody is asking, what if some scholarships are renewable and some were for freshmen only? I haven't really seen that many merit scholarships that are just for freshmen only, but if by chance you do get one, that's another kind of ask that you can, present to the college and say, this was only offered to my student for freshman year, but I'd like to see if it can be continued to be offered for, all 4 years. Obviously, that would make a big difference. The best type of money, right, is the money that you get that's free and that has as minimal or as easy requirements as possible, and that is renewable every year. That's why merit money is actually, if you can change the way the money is from need to merit money is better because it will be there for all 4 years. Our college is aware that the compare tool exists, so we can use it as leverage when appealing. I would not reference the tool. As I said earlier, I would just use it for your own guidance. They're honestly not going to care. Our college isn't going to they're not going to care that a student, down the block or some other student received the offer. They're just going to want to look at your student's particular situation.
I have a quick input on the state schools offers versus private schools.
Mm-hmm.
And I should probably qualify this by saying I've had 8 years of doing FAFSAs and CSA profiles and been talking to the financial aid office of our private liberal arts college in our state. And they've been getting in lots of different aid at various times over the COVID year. So I think that people should just be aware that this is a continually changing situation and that one should just cultivate from a good place, a good relationship in finding out the information and be aware that this is shifting and moving. And the example that I've had of the person, she's had to work with one less person in her office that, because of budget cuts, and then also had to recalculate offers like 3 and 4 times. So it's a really important thing to realize in all of this. And the other thing is that wasn't mentioned, I really would like to say is if you have a first generation student, meaning a person that's going for the first time to college on either side of your family and or ethnic background or race, it is critical to get that information in there. And if you haven't done it already, that can improve your circumstances and draw. The other thing that is also a little not known quite as well is when you look at the balance of male versus female, some colleges are really looking for that, and that's not one that's often mentioned. On the other hand, if it's a college that has more females and they have a newer program in computer science and you have a female that's interested in computer science, you're again going to want to go for that. So for what it's worth, thank you.
No, Karen, those are great additions. Thank you for unmuting and sharing. And I think two things that you said you're so right about is to be considerate about what people in the financial aid office are going through. Their work life has been completely shifted. They're working from home. They probably have fewer staff, as you're talking about. And it's going to be a crazy year from their standpoint, more than ever before. And even the idea about more money kind of changing in and the situation changing. That's why, again, I don't feel that you should be pressured to commit. I would wait as long as possible, just exactly what Karen's saying. Money situation might change from, what schools are being given, but also as other students might decline their offers, that school also might have more money that they can shift around. So this is going to be a game of patience, and I know that it might be hard for your student, but they should feel comfortable that they have acceptances and, that you shouldn't feel pressured to have to commit before May 1st, and you might be rewarded for waiting a little longer.
Debbie,
Yep.
Can I ask a question? Because you said something interesting about Tulane. You said that, and I'm using Tulane just as an example, that Tulane may reject kids who have higher scores because they don't think they're going. Now, my daughter, who, without bragging, everybody has great kids, scored at the higher level of a lot of these second level schools like Case Western Richmond, and she was deferred, which was really amazing to me. And these are schools that offer these merit scholarships. Now, does a deferral for early action mean that you're not going to get these scholarships, or you may? Can we ask them to reconsider for the full scholarship because she is at the top of the load for some of these second level schools? How does that work with the early action being deferred?
Well, I'm assuming you haven't heard any more information from the deferral yet.
No.
So honestly, when she's deferred, she goes into the regular admissions pile, and it's just it's like in some ways she's kind of starting over. So I would expect that those colleges are going to look at her, for whatever the possibilities are. It's just that they didn't accept her early. So I wouldn't actually jump to any conclusions yet until you get the award letters or the acceptances.
Because what I'm confused is if you're saying that some of these schools, other than Harvard and whatever, reject kids if they think the SATs are too high because they're not going to go, that doesn't make sense because they want to attract these kids by giving them the merit aid, and yet it doesn't seem they're doing that.
It's school by school. It's kind of like the game that they want to play. I will tell you personally, my own son was rejected from a school like lower down, and he got in at a higher up school. So I've seen it happen with other. It depends kind of on the situation of that particular school, and how comfortable they feel in the applicant pool that's coming, and how much they want to protect the yield.
Yeah, I mean, I have experience with Tulane, and I can explain it too. They're so focused on the yield of basically when they want to accept people, they want to have a high expectation they're going to go to the school. So what happens is if the grades are too high and the numbers are too high and you haven't shown a lot of interest in the school, if the kid hasn't really gone out of his way to show interest, they're going to say, well, the chances are that they're not going to go. They're using it as a safety school, and they're all about the calculations and the yield calculations. They use advanced metrics and analytics. So they're unique at this point. It may become more common that other schools basically say, they're not going to come here. I don't want to accept them.
Yes. So that's what I'm saying. It's school by school. I just gave that one example, but you might find that the schools that you mentioned, that might have been the reason. I can't remember. I guess I'm assuming, Catherine, that your daughter applied early action to those schools, and they probably figured, looking at her scores relative to the school, that she probably might have had some other schools that she was reaching higher for. So let's defer her and see how our regular admissions pool goes.
But what does this yield mean? I don't understand. They don't know their yield until everybody accepts. So they're not going to know who accepts until close to May 1st. So,
but they start to get it. They definitely start to see it. They see, how many people are accepting and how many people are declining them. So, they're measuring it kind of all along the way, and they know what it was in previous years at different points in the process.
One other question, and then I'm going to shut up. So, like, you're telling me that the closer to May 1st, the more leverage you have. So let's say April 6th, we all get our letters and we all need more merit money. So we write our letters, and then we have to play the game of waiting and asking, like, right before May 1st, when they may start panicking and saying, okay, we'll give you the money. In other words, they may not give the money on April 12th, but then when they get rejections because kids are going to Harvard, they may give the money on April 30th. Is that what you're kind of saying?
I mean, I don't think it's like, hard and fast. I don't think they're going to I think if you appeal, they probably will give you, something for when you do your initial appeal. But the longer you wait, you just have a slightly better chance of them saying, hey, we'll actually increase what we even originally gave you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? It's already 10 after 1. I know this was supposed to be a quick, short, lunch period.
I have one quick question. You talked a lot about being able to leverage the offers from one school to another, or at least the percent discount that you're getting off of tuition, room and board. How does a large flagship school, in your experience, what have you seen? Do large flagship schools like a University of Michigan or UVA or Texas, et cetera, do they care at all about the comparison to a private school offer, or do you have to just compare state school to state schools?
They're probably not going to compare either way. I mean, they're not going to care. I mean, that was kind of to my comment about an out-of-state student trying to get money from and particularly a flagship state school. They're not going to be that willing to budge. And I mean, I don't want to say don't do it. It's worth trying. Your best bet in that case is to compare, against either another flagship, out of state school where your student is out of state, or a private school, because that's kind of like the comparison of schools that they're in. But my guess is they're not gonna budge, because they're in a pretty good situation. They're schools that they know they get a lot of out of state students, and that's kind of like a good source of revenue for them. So that's the hardest situation to be in, is applying to a flagship state school when you're an out-of-state student. So
Great, thank you.
I have one question if I could ask. We've already filed an appeal with a college and we've sent them a pretty competitive offer that we received from a different school. How long can you expect to wait before they respond to these appeals?
I'm just curious, how long have you been waiting?
Couple of weeks, maybe?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
After 2 weeks, I would at least respond back and, kind of ping them and say, just, how long is your process? I would have expected within, 2 to 3 weeks that you would hear.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, anyone else? How about one last question?
I do. I have a question, if you don't mind. I typed it in the chat, but I think it probably got lost.
I know, that's the problem.
Yeah, so many good questions, and I'm watching them. It's all been wonderful. I'm really appreciative of this because we're actually right in the process of this right now. I've been making calls the last couple of days to the admissions officers that my daughter's already spoken to and all that. And one of the things that keeps coming up is her high school's GPA scale is significantly tougher than the norm of the 90 to 100 is an A. Hers is 93 is the lowest A. So her GPA is therefore on her transcript lower, significantly lower, even the unweighted, to the point where it's like the difference between that next level scholarship. So one school said they do recalculate the GPA, but send me a letter. So we're about to send that letter, to confirm that they are actually going to do it. And another school said, well, we just kind of take what's on the transcript and we don't, because there's such variations throughout the country. I'm like, well, we're in the Northeast. We're already more difficult, in a lot of things, not all schools, but, for the most part, a lot of public schools in the Northeast can be seen as tougher grading anyway. And then on top of it, it's 93 is the lowest A, so it's a difference of like a lot. And so how do I get them to kind of see my point of wanting to recalculate and then reconsider for scholarships that are based on like a 375, when now with the recalculation, she's well over that, but just under it if they don't, and her ACTs are up high enough that it does, kind of match.
Just out of curiosity, have you gone to the school counselor in your high school to ask if there's anything that they could provide to kind of like substantiate, what you're saying?
Well, it's listed on the transcript what the actual GPA calculation is, and her actual, yes, I've talked to the counselor, I've talked to the school over the years because this is my second child going to college, and I explained to them, and last January, they were in the process of trying to change it back to a 90 to 100 scale, and then COVID hit, so it didn't change. So because what they did was they went back to her particular counselor, and it's a large school, but he's like the oldest employee there, longest standing. So he was there when they actually changed it to this different scale. And they asked him, so what was the difference? Why did they change it? And they said, oh, we just wanted to see, what would happen. And they just never changed it again.
So, and I'm sorry, I missed what you said. For the second school, did they say that they would recalculate it, or they just said they're just going to take it directly as the high school does it?
They said, we normally just take it, on the transcript, what it says on the transcript.
I guess all you can do is, has your daughter, or I don't know if you said daughter or son, but has your student officially, did they send in a letter, or you just this were conversations over the phone?
So far, it's just conversations, and then we're going to take the next step. This was just in the last couple of days.
Yeah, I guess I would put that in a letter, explain, the situation of the grading scale. And I don't know if there's a way for you to if the scale had been different, and been to the normal, 90 to 100, what her, unweighted GPA would have been, and present that. And then actually also put it in light of, does she have other offers that,
Yes.
that she's gotten? So it's kind of the combination of, this grading situation that you're in, and you're asking them to reconsider that. Plus she has other offers. So, you're trying to make this decision, and, if they can't adjust it, it's, you're kind of presenting it that she might be more attracted to these other schools that are willing to give her more money.
And that's exactly what we've said. That's exactly right. All of that is exactly right. And I have done the recalculation, tedious recalculation, both manually and then with the GPA calculators that you find online. And 3 of them came out exactly the same on a standard GPA.
No, I would, and this is actually a great example. I would have this I know, but have your daughter write it. Even if it's like kind of the angst, right, that she's going through. She worked hard and she's right there on the cusp. And all that she's asking is for them to, view this slightly differently and to be willing to recalculate.
Yeah, and she does have offers from other schools that
Yeah,
are.
I think this is a
significantly better.
great letter that could really have a good feeling, if it comes from the student.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay, okay. Well, I know, guys, I see, my gosh, there's like 70 messages in the chat. I will look them over. I will kind of summarize because some of them might, cross similar topics. And I will include, as much of these answers in the follow-up email. Probably today is Tuesday, probably by Thursday morning, by going through these questions, I'll get you out a follow-up email. This is recorded. I could actually quickly send out the link to the recording if you want to look it over again, but feel free to, send me any questions. Actually, I'd love it if you guys could enter in your information to compare college offers, because multiple reasons. One is so you can see what other people are getting, so that parents in next year, coming down the pipe can see it. But actually, we'd love to get as much information as possible, because I'd love to do some analysis. I'd love to be able to answer these questions about, how did the merit compare from this year to last year, on a bigger scale? Did students who sent in their grades or not sent in their grade, did that impact, the amount of money that they got? We're only going to be able to make those types of know those types of insights if we get enough data and can kind of pull out the trends of what's happening and share it. So anyhow, I hope you guys use Compare College Offers. Send me any of your questions, and then the last thing is share what happens. We want to know, and that's something I'm going to improve in that tool for next year, because I don't have any way of people sharing like the fact that they did appeal and they got more money. But tell us what happens, put it into the Paying for College 101 group, or send me an email. Always really, want to hear what the end result is, particularly in these situations. Okay, we will see you soon, and I hope this was helpful. Take care.